Hello and welcome to Nosotros, the podcast about Mexican-American politics, history, cultura, y más. Except for this time, it's going to be all Puerto Rican. Brought to you in part by the Gomez Law Firm. I'm your host, Elaine Ayala, Metro columnist for the San Antonio Express News. And my guest today is Luis Fonsi. Yes, that Luis Fonsi of Despacito fame, of Latin Grammy and Billboard fame. He's in San Antonio for a screening of his new indie romantic comedy, Say a Little Prayer. And it was filmed here in 2022. We'll talk about that, his incredible career, and what's next. Thank you for being here, Luis Fonsi.
Thank you for having me.
This is so incredible. And thank you to our mutual friend, Robert Trevino, for making this possible. I'm indebted to both of you.
I call him Robert Travieso.
Yes. That explains so much.
It makes more sense, right?
It makes more sense. I think we need to get it legally changed.
Yes. We'll see what we can do about that.
Okay. Before we get started, I'd like to play a little game of this or that.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Ricky Martin or Bad Bunny?
Oh, wow. You started tough. This is hard. Because they're two, I consider them great friends. I consider them great Boricuas, what they've done for music a nivel internacional.
And 3 or 4 different generations.
Two different times. So I will definitely not be able to say that. Musically, I can't say anything. On a personal level, I think Ricky was so important for me because I've known Ricky since he was in Menudo, and I wanted to be a Menudo, right? So like when I was like 4 or 5 years old, Ricky was already performing in stadiums with Menudo, and I was looking ahead, going, one day I want to be a performer. So obviously, on a personal level, that has a lot of power. Obviously now what Bad Bunny's doing is incredible. I think he's super talented. I think he's hardworking. So both of them, I'm getting really political here. Both of them are people who I really applaud. They both care deeply about Puerto Rico, which is something that I identify with a lot. They want what's best for the island. They're not afraid to say it. I respect them both. I hope that was a good answer.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's beautiful.
I'll try to be more blunt.
No. I love it when you can't. I love it when it's so tough. Okay. Mofongo or tostones?
Oof. This might even be harder than thinking. So tostones is like un acompañamiento, right? It's like you put it on the side, a little mayo ketchup, and it goes good with anything else.
Mayo
Mofongo
ketchup
is like a meal. Mofongo is like, you have to like get mentally prepared to eat mofongo. You know, like you have to dress right to eat mofongo. Like I'm about to have a mofongo, and for the rest of the day you're not going to eat anything else because it's a heavy meal.
It's starchy and substantive.
It's amazing. So I'm going to say, I am going to choose a side. I am going to say mofongo because it's harder to make, and when it's done right, it's like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a meal, and it's on its own.
Yeah. Luis Miguel or Mark Anthony?
These are tough.
Both incredible bolero interpreters of the bolero.
Yeah.
Revered. Pack them in.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. Mark is a very dear friend, and first of all, those two vocalists are probably 2 of the top 5 vocalists. This is my humble point of view as a fan of music. Those 2 guys are 2 of the top 5 vocalists in Latin music in general. Any genre. Anytime, at least for my personal taste. No, this is all about taste. This is all about perception and how we listen to music. But for me, those 2 guys have probably the most beautiful voices. So that's on its own. That's already really hard. Mark is a dear friend. He's my neighbor. I love him. He's got the best sense of humor. And when he lights up that stage, it's like Mark is a guy that I can see in concert once a month, listening to the same songs, and I will never get tired because he's got that energy.
It's beautiful.
Luis Miguel is probably one of my favorite voices. And I go back to sort of my childhood, which is the reason why I kind of lean towards Ricky. The reason I got signed to Universal, or maybe not the reason, but one of the reasons, I sang a Luis Miguel song. Like I went to a karaoke, back in the karaoke days, I sang when there were stores where you could actually buy the tapes. Mm-hmm. Now it's all digital. Mm-hmm. I was in college and I went to a karaoke store, bought a tape of a song called Hasta que me olvides. Written by Juan Luis Guerra, who's also my favorite artist.
Oh my God, that song just
and
kills
I recorded
me, right, Erica?
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful songs ever written. And I asked for free studio time in my university. I did some like projects and helped the teacher out. So I was like, okay, can I get 2 hours studio time so I can record this song? And I recorded Hasta que me olvides. And that was my demo to show my record label to later get signed.
There you go.
So if there's an artist that sort of indirectly influenced me and indirectly sort of helped me get a record deal, was Luis Miguel, and somebody to completely look up to, because it was more of a similar genre. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Luis Miguel to me is special.
A musical theater question. Mm-hmm. West Side Story or In the Heights?
They're different stories, but I think they sort of fill that same box in two different generations. When we talk about In the Heights, I think of Lin-Manuel, who again is my brother and probably one of the most talented people I've ever met. And I think it's great. But again, I can't go against West Side Story. I mean, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be in West Side Story. I did the play in my high school.
Oh my God, really?
So it connects me from
Maria.
Sort of, yeah.
I just met a girl.
You know it, named Maria. Yeah. So it connects me sort of in a different way when you kind of grow up trying to dissect whether it's a voice, whether it's a song, whether it's a scene. Whereas now that I'm older and I do this for a living, you respect it, you applaud it. But when you're, when you're 10 years old and you're sitting there going, one day I'm going to do this show. It has a deeper meaning.
What role did you play?
Bernardo.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was one of the gang members.
Yeah, he was the brother. Yeah.
He was the brother. Okay, I think this one's the hardest. Chita Rivera or Rita Moreno?
I would have to go with Rita. Because she's just, she was Maria. It's incredible. It's incredible. I got to meet her a while back, and let me tell you, I got nervous.
Oh, that's so lovely. That's so lovely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're talking about two icons, and when you have to choose between two icons, it's not easy. But I just remember, when I got to say hello and just kind of think back of that little kid who grew up, really loving, just the theater and the film industry and music in general. She's definitely, was definitely an influence.
Okay, I would understand completely if you don't answer this one. It's the political one.
Oh boy.
Statehood or independence?
And we're obviously talking about Puerto Rico.
Of course.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I'm going to plead the fifth on this one. Okay. Just because it's very touchy.
Yeah,
it's very touchy, and I think in general when you get, I'm very black and white. I don't like to be kind of shady. I'm known to be very honest, and I think that's just who I am. But when we get into politics, especially now, I feel as though it's just it's just better just to smile and nod,
It's
because,
like lighting a fuse for anything political, right?
It brings out sort of a weird kind of vibe on some people, not everybody, and it just becomes this thing that it should not become. And I think it's okay to feel different. I think it's respectful for everybody to have their own view. I think we should celebrate the fact that we're different. Like, I'm kind of the guy. I had this conversation not too long ago in another interview I did. Because in past years I have been a little bit more vocal about, where I lean, especially not so much in Puerto Rico, in Puerto Rican politics, more in like the presidency in the United States.
Oh God, yep.
So, a few years ago, I did sort of say, look, especially because of Puerto Rico, that's the reason I was like, I need to kind of say, this is how I feel. I got approached by the party, and I'll say it. It was in the 2020 election, and I got approached by the Democratic Party, and I was like, you know what? From what I've seen in Puerto Rico, I think that, this is what needs to happen. So I was like, I need to say something. But now I get asked a lot, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to shut up. I'm just going to shut up because it's dangerous, and people, take it to heart, which is fine, which is great. I think we all, at the end of the day, what we want is to live in a safe place, is for an economy to be, good, is for our kids' future to be bright. I think we all want that. It's just that sometimes people get a little bit aggressive on the way there, So, you know what? Me quedo, como dice una canción, me quedo callado.
Oh, you can do that as much as you want.
Okay, all right.
You're in the middle of your latest tour, the 25 Años World Tour.
Yep.
Which will take you to Mexico City soon.
Yep.
And then Latin America and lots of other places. Tell us how it's going. Give us a couple of highlights.
It's going great. We're celebrating 25 years. Actually, it's really 26 now. In September 15th of 1998 was when my first album came out. So it's actually, 26 years already. But 25 just sounds sexier. Or it started when I was 25. It started in February of this year. We started in Madrid, Spain. And pretty much since then we haven't stopped. We did Europe, we did all summer, we did Spain. We just got done doing the US leg. Actually, we still have 2 more shows that got postponed because of the hurricane in Florida, but that'll be done in December. And now we move on to South America, which next week I fly to Argentina. We're going to be out there for a while. We have 6 shows in Argentina and 6 shows in Chile.
Which is incredible because Buenos Aires, people don't realize what a huge capital it is.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love going to South America. The energy, the crowd in Argentina, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Paraguay, in Peru, and Ecuador. Just people are just so awesome. They're so, they sing every song. We're going to go to Mexico next year, which obviously, it's a place where also feels a little bit like home. So yeah, touring is fun. It's the best. It's tough because there's a lot of traveling and after a while, it becomes like, oh, okay, another airplane, but it's my favorite part of my job, if we could even call this a job. There's nothing like, that moment where the band hits that first note, when you're putting in, like my ear monitors and tuning the guitar and getting ready to go on stage for that first song. That feeling you get is the best high a human being could have, and when you hear that crowd sing, my songs and sort of just that connection that you get is priceless. So that's my favorite part.
What's the biggest crowd you've ever entertained?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe like when you do huge festivals, you get lots of people.
Is it hundreds of thousands?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, obviously, but yeah, I have performed in front of, hundreds of thousands of people. One time, it wasn't my concert, but I got to perform in front of 2 million people that were there physically. And obviously they didn't come to see me. I'm not sitting here getting credit for that. But it was because I sang for the Pope.
Well,
so it was the World Youth Day in Rome.
That's gotta be.
That was actually very early in my career. So I was like, oh my God, this is what 2 million people look like. And obviously it was just a sea of people. You couldn't see the end. And there were these huge towers with, speakers, like they're called delay towers. Because it was just an open field of like all these delay towers so people could hear it. And it was just a very peaceful, you would see flags from a lot of countries that I didn't even recognize. I was like, I don't know where that flag is from, but those people look beautiful, and it was one of those moments that you're like, how did I make it up here, to be singing for the Pope?
Oh, your heart must have just been busted.
Yeah, it was very special.
I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but I gotta ask it. Despacito. How does that kind of song come into your head and come out on paper, and then you get Daddy Yankee, who I have a tremendous crush on.
Really?
I interviewed him once when he had his cologne. He introduced his cologne.
Okay.
I asked him, so before you were famous, what cologne did you wear? And he said, Dracor.
Of course, we all at one point.
Everybody wore that.
Eternity, like there's a few that we all wore,
Hilarious. Everybody.
Cool water.
I was interviewing him like in a room with people, and everybody started laughing. Anyway, so this song, global, massive hit. My 8-year-old goddaughter, when I told her I was going to interview, said, I've been listening to him my whole life.
That's true, the whole life.
Her whole life.
Yeah, it's true.
So how does that happen? You earned 4 Latin Grammy Awards, 7 Billboard Latin Music Awards, and 5 Billboard Music Awards. And you got nominated for other Grammys in the process. And this is a song that is recognized in the far corners of Africa, in Asia, in all of Europe, all of Latin America. I mean, how did that come into your head?
The funny thing is I've recognized and I realized what we've accomplished with this one song. The accolades, the awards, the record-breaking, just everything, and I celebrate it, of course, and I thank God every day, and I feel completely blessed. But at the end of the day, I kind of go back to that morning where I ran from one side of my house to the other, where I have a small studio, in my underwear, because I did not want to forget that melody that I woke up to.
What was the melody that you first?
It was just the melody of the chorus, And I did have a little bit of the lyric, but I just sort of heard the song in my head, and I already kind of knew.
When you were sleeping?
When I woke up, I was just. It was almost like when you wake up singing a song that you heard the night before, and you wake up singing it. That it was that feeling, but it's like I've never heard this song before. I think I just made it up while I was sleeping, and I actually sang this melody with the Despacito and everything to my wife. I was like, "Have you heard this song before?" And she's like, "No." And she was like, half asleep. I was like, "Okay, don't talk to me right now. I'll be right back." So I ran
Excellent.
I swear, and I'm glad that she was there to see it, so people will know that I'm not making this up. So I ran to my studio. I turned on the computer, the Pro Tools, the whole thing. I grabbed the guitar. I hit a B minor, and it was exactly the key that I was singing it in. And I was like, man, there's some freaky thing happening right now, but everything's just coming together. And I recorded sort of that, what we call a scratch melody, right? So I just kind of put it all out there on, recorded it, saved it, turned off the computer. Then I went on to have my morning coffee, the whole thing, went to the gym, came back to the house. And I had a session that day with a great songwriter called Erika Ender, who I've written many songs with before. And I showed her that scratch vocal, and she's like, there's something here that's really special. So I was like, let's just write it. Let's go with it and see where it takes us. And I always say that
it was still that same day.
Yeah, it was that same. Yeah, it was that same day. So that afternoon we wrote the song in like less than an hour. I always say that we didn't write the song. The song wrote us, because when it just starts to flow, it's that little bola de nieve, that just keeps on growing and just kind of takes you places. So it was special in the sense that how it kind of came along, how easy it was created. It wasn't special in the sense that I didn't do anything different than the thousands of songs that I've written. It was sort of that same process, same guitar, same corner of the room, same effort, same love, same passion behind every lyric and every melody. But I don't know. You can, if you're a spiritual person, you can say that Papa Dios was there in the room with us that day and said, you know what, it's your turn, and you've been working your butt off. Now it's your turn to have, a hit song or whatever you want to call it. But I just think all the pieces aligned, all the stars aligned. Obviously, I give a lot of credit to the producers of the song. Two guys that people probably won't know unless they're in the industry, because they're just songwriters and producers. But Andres Torres and Mauricio Rengifo came into my house months later, heard that demo that I recorded with my guitar, and took the song to a different level. And that is what really kind of opened the door to invite Daddy Yankee, who obviously took the song to a different level.
He is a genius.
Yeah, so it was kind of the typical, that everybody kind of put their part in, and it just, and the song just blew us out of the water. It really has been a blessing.
You were born on the island, but grew up in Florida. Mm-hmm. What were your early musical influences? You mentioned menudo, and we've all got kind of menudo in the brain.
Yeah.
Given that Jose Menendez's story has been revived several times, and he was behind the success of menudo. What was it that really, were you singing very early in life, or were your parents musical?
My parents were very musical. They weren't musicians, but they were extremely musical, especially my dad, who doesn't really sing or doesn't really play any instruments other than maybe like a percussion instrument. He's extremely knowledgeable about music, and he's the closest thing to a musician without being a musician. Like even now, I'll play him a song and he'll say something about the song that a musician would say. Now, I don't know if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's somebody that just knows when why a song is a song. It's not somebody that will be able to tell you who played what instrument for that record, especially back in the salsa days or in the old school crooner days, like Juan Gabriel or Camilo Sesto or Jose. I grew up with these big singers, and then also listening to salsa music. And then when I moved to Orlando when I was 11 from Puerto Rico, I got into R&B, a little bit of rock. So I've been blessed to have a lot of different genres to kind of pick and choose from when I started deciding who I wanted to be when you're kind of just growing up. But obviously that romantic crooner vocal first artist is the one that I connected to the most. That's why Luis Miguel was such a big influence. But when I was a little kid, I actually auditioned for menudo.
Oh, you did?
I did audition for menudo, and I made it to the finals. Can
you believe they didn't take you? That was a big mistake.
Maybe it was a blessing in disguise, So I don't know.
Dare they?
You know what? It's the menudo that I completely fell in love with. I was way too young for, and it was that early Súbete a mi moto menudo. That's the one that I remember.
That was like 80s, late 80s, or
that was like early 80s. I mean, I was like 3 years old, and because I have videos,
okay.
you know. But it's like
you wanted to be
I'm talking about
a little too early.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about like René, who's actually René Farrait, who's actually one of my closest friends nowadays. Johnny Lozada, Miguel, those guys. You know, it was that menudo, and it evolved to a lot of different types of groups, in which I obviously followed, but I think it was a mix between the songs and the thing that got to me when I was young was the crowd reaction. You know, when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, I would see these massive crowds in these stadiums of girls just crying and fainting, and you know, and I was like
the Beatles.
How could exactly.
The Beatles.
So I was like, how could, you know, these guys who are just singing songs have that effect on different audiences? And so that's why I was like, music is so powerful, you know, the power of a song, the power of music in general. So that's why I was like, I got turned on to do music. And later, you know, kind of going back to your original question, influences, I think we all just latch on to different etapas, different moments of our lives. Like I remember the album Bachata Rosa from Juan Luis Guerra. That was around 89, 90. And that's when I moved to Orlando. So we kind of left everybody behind in Puerto Rico, you know, all the family, all the cousins, everything.
What made your family move?
It was my father just felt as though he needed to start from scratch somewhere else because he was just looking for more. He was wanting more, a better job, a better quality of life, better education for us. Which is something that when I was 10, you know, you don't really understand. I didn't want to move. You know, I did not want to move from Puerto Rico. That was my happy place. But in hindsight, I see why he did it, and I'm grateful that he did it. And I'm impressed that at such a young age, because my dad was young. He had 3 kids. We had nothing. Like, you know, we moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment, all 5 of us. He had no job. So he's like, I'm just going to go out there and look for a job. Now that I'm a father, I'm like, I don't know if like I could, you know what I'm saying? I could do that. So anyways, Bachata Rosa was that album that got us through that first Christmas. You know what I mean? Being away from our typical Christmas traditions, going to La Casa Abuela, La Casa de la Tía, you know, we're kind of on our own. I mean, we're in Orlando. It's not like, you know, we're in a horrible place, but we were alone, you know, and kind of completely out of that Latino celebration Christmas that we all love, you know? So Bachata Rosa was such an important album. Plus every song was a hit, you know, and Juan Luis is, I will always say, he's my favorite artist as a songwriter, as a producer, as a singer, and as a human being. He's somebody who I absolutely look up to and admire, and I'm blessed and I'm lucky to call my friend, who I've worked with him. I've sung with him. I've done different projects with him, a movie where I did the voice of a character of a movie that he wrote. So anyways, that he has influenced me, you know, in a huge way. You know, just a little bit of everything. Like I say, I listen to salsa, I listen to balada, I listen to rock. I listen to soul music. So just a little, you know, I grab from different corners of the different genres, and that's who I think I've become as an artist.
You're in town for I don't know how many times, but certainly since you filmed a movie called Say a Little Prayer.
Yes.
And you're back for a screening, and you play the starring role of Rafael.
Yes.
Reza.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that experience. This is your first big role, right? You've been in a couple of movies, but this is your first leading man role.
Yes. So I've done acting before, mostly TV and theater. But this was definitely a first for me, and I felt it was the correct first step to make because of the film itself, the script, the character, the people who were involved. the place we were shooting it at. Hey,
Thank you.
It felt like an easy first day of school. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if I'm going to sort of start this new journey, because in a way it is, not the acting side of it, but just the film side of it, I want to feel comfortable and not intimidated and not forced. And the role, Rafael, I think I have a lot of Rafael in me. So it was just really just almost like playing myself. And once I spoke with the team, especially with the director, Patrick, I was like, I can do this. This is fun. It's good to get away from the touring cycle and be in San Antonio for a month. Getting to play this really cool role, and I'm so glad I chose that, because I had so much fun, and I'm grateful that I was even considered to play this part. So I'm excited to be able to share this movie with everybody Thanksgiving weekend, and happy to be here today for the premiere.
We should mention, or you should mention, the guy that brought you the script.
Yeah.
He's a San Antonian. Tell us about your
Mr. Trevino.
Mr. Trevino, Robert Trevino.
Yes.
He's here in the studio.
He's a
right
rock
now.
star. No, I love Robert. We met a long time ago. Because he worked for, I can say it right? He worked for Gibson Guitars. I'm a Gibson artist. And he brought me into the Gibson family, and he just became a great friend. He has an amazing sense of humor.
Ay, Dios mío. We all
I have
know
a Gibson guitar tattooed.
Oh, look at you. Yeah,
it's my Emmy Lou Harris, which is my favorite Gibson guitar. It's the guitar where I do most of my songwriting.
Acoustic.
It's an acoustic electric guitar, and it's just, to me, it's one of the most beautiful Gibson models, and I kind of tattooed a little bit of it on my arm. So yeah, Robert reached out to me a while back, and he's like, hey, look, we have this really amazing script, and check it out. Tell me what you feel about it. I'm like, Robert, I don't know. I'm in the middle of touring. I'm doing The Voice in Spain. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Just shut up and read the script. Maybe you didn't say shut up. I'm making it a little bit more dramatic.
It sounds like him.
Yeah, it does sound like him, actually. So I was like, okay, I have a flight tomorrow. I have a long flight. I'll read the script. And as soon as I landed, I was like, I think I could do this. I'm not big on reading long, heavy scripts. Like I'm like a little kid. I have ADD. Like, for me to sit and just, breeze through a script in one seating without like taking breaks or without saying, okay, I'll read the rest tomorrow, it's because I had like a honest connection to everything that was on paper. And I was like, you know what? This is interesting. Let's start talking about it. And it led to me being here talking to you today.
That's just wonderful.
Yeah.
So is acting the next step? Is it part of your plan? Is it the focal point for maybe the next phase of your career?
I think acting has always been a step. It actually became, I actually started acting before I started singing, in the sense that I did so much theater in school, I think it was parallel. I shouldn't say before, but one thing to me was very similar to the other. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's being in front of an audience, and it's just
performance
and performing and entertaining. I see where your question's going. Like, is it something, am I going to set aside music to just focus on acting? No, I will never set aside
thank
music.
God.
Yeah. No, that I see acting as, or filmmaking, I see it as just when a project comes, in front of me and I connect to it, hopefully I can be a part of it. Yes. Because I feel very comfortable. I love challenges. And I think that I still have a lot to learn, in music as well. But I definitely cannot live without my guitar, a good melody and a lyric. That's to me, that will always be my biggest role. To write songs and to perform songs, and everything I can do around that. Hopefully I will get more opportunities, like Say a Little Prayer. And hopefully people will like me in that in those roles. Like theater is something that I'm very passionate about. I did theater in 2014. I did a Broadway show, and I would love to go back to Broadway and sort of live that Broadway every day during a show, sometimes matinees. Like I love that energy and that adrenaline you get when you do theater, because it's like you have no time to lose your voice. You have no time to get sick. You have no time to do anything. It's just all about waking up and being ready to perform every day. And that's something that I get turned on by. You know what I mean? It's like, I love that adrenaline. Film is or TV, it's a little bit more, it's a different velocity, let's just say. But it's refreshing. Like I loved being here for a month, just waking up, reading my script. Okay, where are we going to shoot today? Oh, we're going to go here. Okay, I love that kind of change of pace. I just hope I can grow, and hopefully people will enjoy,
I read somewhere that you were going to collaborate on a children's book.
I did.
Oh, you already did?
Yes.
And
you read correctly.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Tell us about that little book. I can't wait to get it.
So it's out now. It came out earlier this year. It's in English and Spanish. It's called Amigos Extraordinarios.
Like in Rana.
Extraordinarios, yes, like in Rana.
Unforgettable.
Did you know this? Or
that's what I read. That it was.
Like, how did you know this?
No. I'm not that brilliant.
Okay, no. But you are a little bit. Unforgettable Friends is the English version. And it's a story. It's a children's book. It's a story about a character called Blue, which is un osito, a bear, who's very curious, and he travels to different places. And of course, since I was involved, where did he travel? Puerto Rico.
Of course.
I know, I'm proud.
It's a
proud
great
Boricua,
destination.
So he meets una ranita, a frog, which is our native coqui. Mm-hmm. So for people who don't know what a coqui is, it's just like a little frog who has
tiny little frog.
Powerful lungs, and they sing. They're very loud. And at nighttime, you'll hear the coqui. They can only live in Puerto Rico. They've seen some, according to some studies, in an island in Hawaii, but they just normally only live in Puerto Rico. If you bring them anywhere else, they die.
And it's a federal offense. I mean, it's like an environmental.
I mean, first of all, to even find them, because they're kind of, they always paint them green, but they're actually kind of transparent.
Oh, really?
They're tiny, and
you can hear them for sure.
You can definitely hear them,
but you can't see them. I don't think I've ever. The only ones I've seen are the monitos that you can buy when you're a tourist in San Juan.
Of course, and it's cool because it's kind of the sound of Puerto Rico. It's kind of that. It's kind of music to our ears. It could actually be very intense for somebody who's not used to it, and I get it because it's very loud. I mean, it would be equivalent to like loud crickets at nighttime when you're not used to it, and people need to have that silence. For a Puerto Rican, it's music to our ears. It just gives us that we're home.
So beautiful.
El pueblo, to me, it just, like when I talk to my cousins or my aunts and uncles, and I'm on the phone, I can hear the coquis in the background. It's like, oh man, I wish I was there with you right now. So anyways, that's what the book is about. It has to do with a coquis, and it was a fun project, just like making this film. It's the first book that I write. It was a cool challenge because it was written in rhyme. Mm-hmm. So it's really like a song. If you think about it, it's like I'm writing this really long song in Spanish and in English. Obviously, it's very positive. It's about friendship. It's about honesty. It's about being yourself. So I think it has a really positive message. It's out on wherever you buy your books, Amazon, wherever. Go look for it. And as a father of two young kids, that moment of winding down, after shower time, and you sit in bed and you read books, is a special moment. It's a very, very special moment. I'm kind of done with it with my 12-year-old daughter, but I'm still squeezing every moment I can with my 7-year-old boy. And that's what inspired me to sit down and write this book.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful way to end. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank my friend Robert enough for making all of this possible. And to our friends who are sitting in the studio today, Erica Prosper and Michael Quintanilla, who's
Our
also
live studio audience. Thank you, guys.
Okay, you can watch video versions of Nosotros on YouTube and find the podcast wherever you find your best podcasts. My Metro column appears every Wednesday and Friday in the San Antonio Express News. If you want to reach me, you can email me at eayala@express-news.net. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on Nosotros. I got to interview Luis Fonsi!